Hello, hello, hello. How are we all doing today, folks? This is going to be a very impromptu stream. I'm just going to check real quick on the live on my phone to make sure that you can hear me. Apologies if it starts doing some weird feedback stuff, but that's what happens sometimes. So I'm just going to make sure my audio is good. All right, cool. Sounds like we're good. I should pull up the chat window off to the side here. Cool. All right, so I'm able to pull up the chat in OBS. I'm going to pop out the window. We're going to put this over here. So I shouldn't need too much of that. In the chat, I can put right here. Perfect. Okay. A lot of familiar faces popping in. So this was an idea I literally had probably 30 minutes ago, and I was like, you know what, this would be a fun stream since it is the 1-year anniversary of releasing the 10 Bullets video. And I thought it would be a good idea to show off the, hold on. There we go. Do a video or live stream showing off the video and kind of talking, doing like a director's commentary type thing. Thought it would be fun to do that. And just, yeah, I really am proud of how this video came out. And I think it's one of the most important videos that I've made. So yeah, I don't know. I just felt like it was a great, important topic. Before we get started here, I guess, the original idea behind this video was I was actually running, and this, if you didn't know, the inspiration behind like the 10 bullets is from Tom Sachs, and he's an artist out of New York here, and he has these like rules for working in his studio, and they're called the 10 bullets. And I'm just pulling it up. I'll pull up the live screen again. So this is like the original like inspiration for the Chaser Safety 10 bullets. So I was using his studio's 10 rules of his studio. And there's a video that goes along with it on on his YouTube channel, but it was just kind of the inspiration behind doing like a chaser version of it. So I was on a run one morning, and this is right when I started doing this full time. Right when I knew that I was going into doing YouTube full time. So this was last August, and I wanted to do a little bit of a bigger project, something that I hadn't attempted before. And that's how the 10 bullets of Chaser Safety came to be. The idea came to me on the run while I was thinking about Tom Sachs's studio bullets. So let's get into the video itself. And if you have any questions along the way of, I don't know, anything about like the production of the video, like behind the scenes stuff, happy to talk about that, or any of the inspiration behind the contents of the video itself. So yeah, let's dive into the video.
All right, we're going back.
Starting off here with my buddy Chris Frisky and his run-in with the Lewistown EF3 on April 4th, 2023. Let me know if the audio's through okay. So I felt like I wanted to start the video off on a powerful note. Hit by a tornado. A worst-case scenario for any storm chaser.
While it's relatively rare, storm chasing's explosion in popularity has undoubtedly created an increased likelihood.
So this here, this shot here that I think is why I used this particular. Yes, I am watching chat. Moneyman Plays. I'm kind of keeping a secondary eye on it. Oh, I'm quieter than the video. Okay, give me one sec. All right, I turned myself up a little bit. Video's too loud. Okay. Here, we'll do this then. I'll turn my that down, and I'll turn the. Let me run this again real quick. Let me know if this is better. Let me know if that's better.
Tornado.
All right, cool. So, back to what I was getting
for any storm chaser. While it's relatively rare, storm chasing's explosion in popularity has undoubtedly created an increased likelihood.
So this shot here was on May 24th, 2023, and this was in Clovis, New Mexico, and this is some of the most intense. I'm turning up the video just a slight bit. Okay. This was the most intense chaser convergence I had seen up until this year. This year, there was a day in the Texas Hill Country where it was definitely much more aggressive than what it was on this Clovis day, or during Clovis Fest 2023. So, yeah, and you can just see the sea of headlights. I didn't really talk about chaser convergence that much. That might be something to talk about in maybe a future iteration of this video. But anyway, we'll continue.
Likelihood of it happening again. In an attempt to promote safe chasing practices through this platform, I drafted this
using
code,
these top-down shots.
10 bullets of chaser safety.
So you can kind of see how there was like kind of a play on the Tom Sachs 10 bullets.
Likelihood of it happening again. In an attempt to promote safe chasing practices through this platform, I drafted this code, the 10 bullets of chaser safety. Follow the 10 bullets and you should have a safe tornado chasing experience. Violating a bullet does not guarantee your demise.
So also I have the booklet is filed away at the moment, but I also have the I pulled up the PDF so we can kind of look at the bullets that I put underneath, or the kind of the line items that I put under each of the kind of categories. Nothing super detailed, and someone was saying I should make like an actual printed version of this, which I might do. You can download the PDF over on the Patreon. It's free to anyone that joins the Patreon for free. Should be in the description. To the Patreon page, and if you just go to the free stuff, this should be there. This PDF, if you want to download it for yourself. Fun little hand-drawn whatever video prop that anyone can kind of have fun with. But we'll take a quicker or closer look at that when we get into the
But as more bullets are violated, the likelihood increases. They are not a...
there is a June 1st Discord. History with Ivana.
Substitute for learning how to chase,
in the
and are
description.
not all-encompassing.
I'm not very good at promoting
as safety
it.
practices are ever evolving.
I'm really bad at promoting
the order
things.
of the bullets does not signify the order of importance. No two chases, positions, or storms are alike, so chaser discretion is important to using the bullets to their advantage. To explain and demonstrate the importance of each of the 10 bullets, I will use incidents from the past to show the importance of a specific bullet and suggest better practices to maintain a safe chase.
I think I as I mentioned in the video at some point, I said that the order of the bullets is not like significant to their importance. I mean, the order of them, how they flushed out, is, I feel like, was the important lessons out of each of the incidents. So I kind of went chronologically with the incidents, and then I found the important lessons in each incident that differed from the other incidents, if that makes sense. And that kind of determined the order of the bullets. So that's why I said that there's no real. And I imagine, like, throughout a chase, one bullet might be more important to keep in mind than another, if that makes sense, given proximities or visibilities and situations. So,
Chase. I am not guilting any of the chasers for their actions.
Marcus Reynolds.
Some of these examples involve my friends who have completely
Kelton
owned
Henderson
their
and
mistakes
Chris Risky,
and have
obviously.
learned from them.
My
To start this
boys.
guide, we must go back to the day that storm chasing lost its innocence. May 31st, 2013.
So kind of a random May 31st, 2013 story. So, everyone knows that's the El Reno Day. And I was in 8th grade. Yeah, 8th grade when that happened. And I was working on a science project, and I was building my very own wind turbine. And ultimately, it happens. I hear about what happens to Twist-X, and I dedicated my science project that I was building, the wind turbine that I had built out of a recycled weed whacker motor, and dedicated the turbine to Twist-X. I wish I had pictures of that wind turbine. Actually, I might. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm going to let this run a little bit and see if I can find this photo.
On this Friday in late May, the target was all too obvious, with chasers staging in west central Oklahoma. Just after 4:30 local time, 3 cells initiated and quickly organized, marching east towards the city of El Reno. As storm mergers completed, the legendary research-based chasing outfit Twist-X, which consisted of Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and Carl Young, started their chase in a familiar location, the Notch, which happens to be the focus of the first bullet. Number 1. Caution in the Notch. Simply put, the Notch is a region of a supercell thunderstorm where converging air at the surface is ingested by the updraft. It is a gap located between the forward flank downdraft and the rear flank downdraft. Supercells come in all sorts of variability, but the Notch exists universally. The Notch is a favorite place to be amongst chasers, as it usually offers prime viewing conditions of tornadoes.
Okay, so here's a picture of it. Let me do this. This is on my Instagram archive. But there it is. There's the wind turbine I built. Trying not to get the harsh glare. But yeah. Pretty cool, I guess. It's just it was like a vertical wind turbine, so it spun this way instead of this way. And the power plant was a weed whacker, a busted weed whacker that I ripped the motor out of to generate electricity. So that was the project that I dedicated to Twist-X since I was building it. When did I post that picture? So this picture was posted, you can't probably see it, June 2nd, 2013. So I probably just found out about it because I don't think the news wasn't public for a couple days. So I probably found out that day. So yeah, let's dive back into bullet number 1, caution in the Notch. However, with the Notch comes several hazards, such as large hail and strong winds. True.
Most critically, though, is that it usually falls within the tornado's eventual path. The Notch is a game of high risk, high reward. A miscalculation in the Notch.
So I used this example just because it happened that year.
Path.
And it was like the best Notch example that I had with good footage of. So if you kind of watch, so this was on June 15th, 2024 in Nebraska. And I'm trying to find the
in the notch. Simply put, the notch is but the notch exists universally. The notch is a
so you can kind of see. So we're coming in from so here's your RFD cut. We're going west, and we're basically cutting into the notch of the hook. So you have this is the ball of the hook, basically on radar. RFD wrapping around here, mesocyclone, tornado forming. So we're kind of cutting across the north of the tornado, but the supercell is moving pretty much due northeast, and we're going to be well north of the eventual motion, which you'll see with the check.
Favorite place to be amongst chasers, as it usually
So you
offers
can kind of
prime
see
viewing conditions.
So as you see, as we're going west, this tornado's moving clearly east of our position once we come to a stop.
Of tornadoes. However, with the notch comes several hazards, such as large hail and strong winds. Most critically, though, is that it usually falls within the tornado's eventual path.
So we were probably here.
The notch is a game of high risk.
So you can see how the tornado, fixed point of reference, it's moving away from us.
High reward. A miscalculation in the notch can be fatal.
May 24th,
Across the
2011.
4 cases today, all of them
that
involve
radar
positionings in
slideshow.
the notch of a supercell. Further east, or even south of a storm's updraft base, minimizes the risk of a tornado impact, but it is still not guaranteed. Caution and vigilance is always needed in the notch. Twistex was an experienced group and some of the best at what they do. Their aggressive chase style,
I meant to say and some of the best at what they did. That line always bothered me. I don't know why I didn't re-record it.
was required for their intercept ground probe work. Back in the El Reno event, at Tornado Genesis, the tornado would dive southeast. This is not a typical direction for tornadoes to take on an eastward moving storm, especially given the current understanding of tornado motions at this time. This would catch multiple chasers off guard.
Someone just asked if I'm family friendly. I think I am. I don't swear or anything in my videos. I'm pretty intentional about muting curse words, especially on chase video. Like if I do curse on a chase video, I usually censor it. Live chases you can't, but I don't know. I feel like I'm not that vulgar.
As several were impacted by the outer circulation. The environmental circumstances of the El Reno storm would lead into the second bullet. Number 2. Beware of deviant motions. Largely unknown to the folks chasing this day in 2013, this storm was primed for erratic tornado behaviors. Loads of new research have shed light on the fact that the environment at play that day was extremely conducive for deviant tornado motion.
Huge shout out to Cameron Nixon for popping onto this video. Good friend of mine, and I would say one of the top minds in meteorology moving forward. Like I would say the next generation of great, severe meteorology researchers.
In most cases, tornadoes follow a fairly linear path, resembling the motion of the parent supercell.
Such basic
However,
animation.
certain environmental conditions and storm behaviors can promote deviant tornado motions, taking paths that are far from linear. I consulted my friend who happens to be a pioneering expert in the understanding of supercell behavior.
As I look on the live stream right now, I can tell that my white balance is slightly off in the original video. Compared to the live stream cameras, white balance is dialed in, whereas in that video I had it slightly off.
Dr. Cameron Nixon is a research scientist whose research pertains to anticipating storm hazards and storm interactions. One of the big questions out of the El Reno 2013 event is the fact that it changed directions multiple times. What do you believe?
I think I look pretty similar for a year difference. Good to know that I didn't age that much. Hairline's still the same, right? Still holding on strong. Good.
From a meteorological perspective.
Ooh, need to learn how to hodograph. We can talk about hodographs.
expected
briefly if
led
we want to.
this event being an extremely dangerous one to chase.
If we do
Basically, if you have
a quick photograph lesson, if you want to do it, I can draw it real quick. So, notepad out. All right. So photographs. Okay. So basically, how to read a photograph. So you have basically a polar graph. This is gonna be so crude, just be noted. Okay, so basically, let me. Okay, you can see that a little better. So you have a polar graph, right? And basically, the further out you go is increase in wind speed, right? So I'm gonna draw a shape with just a red pen here. I don't have a lot of stuff on standby. So I'll just draw a classic supercell photograph shape. Roughly like that, okay? So this basically, all it is just mapping like shear vectors. And what I mean by that is, so at the bottom part of the, like at the first line segment, usually this is different colors denoting altitude. It's just showing which way the wind is and how strong it is. So as we can see, say at the surface, our wind vector is going to be, let's say this is 10, 20, 30. So in knots, right? So it is the northwest, east, south. So it's basically just how you map wind vectors with height. It's just a visual representation throughout the atmospheric profile. So at the surface here, let's say this is the very beginning, 0 kilometers. We have winds that are 10 knots in magnitude, and they are basically east-northeasterly. So they're coming out of the east-northeast and going that way. So let's say up here is 1 kilometer, where this is 0 kilometers up in the atmosphere. Your wind has changed directions, right? So now up this way, it is, you have a southeasterly wind that's 20 knots at 1 kilometer. So it's basically just mapping the vectors throughout the profile. Wouldn't that be southwesterly because the photograph compass is mirrored? No, so basically, like it's just drawing this sheer, like your actual vector out. It's like not like, don't think of it as a wind barb, think of it as a vector. So this is still in, an east-northeasterly wind because the wind's coming out of the east-northeast. So wind barb would be kind of back up in this way, I guess, technically. Whereas a vector, it's just, so. And then, basically it's a 3D wind profile. So if we go back to the live screen for a sec, you can kind of see what so like that's your 0 kilometers. So here, you have their surface winds are slightly pretty much southerly at 10 knots, but then at 1 kilometer, almost purely southerly at 35 knots. And then you can see that turning with height in the low level. So that shear vector is basically changing as it's going up. And then this RM is your right motion. So with supercells, you can get a left mover and a right mover. And the right mover is typically your primary storm that's you're going to be your dominant storm. Left splits usually go off and shoot off and die, whereas your right mover is usually your primary storm. And using the photograph, you can kind of approximate the storm's motion. So here's the left mover's motion. So if you got a splitting supercell, the left mover is going to shoot off at approximately 45 knots to the northeast as the outflowing right mover shoves that storm way off into the distance, whereas the right remover roots and becomes the dominant storm. So, yeah, so that's a good start of Hodograph 101.
Slow moving super
Cameron Nixon on his own YouTube channel has good videos on it.
cells combined with a strong low level jet. Those tornadoes from that initially stationary storm can kind of be ripped apart from beneath that supercell and kind of just start hauling northward. So we had a baseline hodograph for that deviant tornado motion. We also had kind of a backdrop for relatively large supercell storms, both from a really big cape profile and a really strong shear.
So cape, we throw the term around a lot in meteorology, but looking at a skew T here. So here are the wind barbs, right? This is kind of giving that other visual representation of that hodograph just kind of laid out on the skew T. So you have temperature and your elevation and pressure. This is your adiabat, so the temperature profile where your air parcel wants to be at and varies layman's term. And then this is your actual temperature profile in red. And then in green is your dew point temperature. So up here we have a pretty strong elevated mix layer. And but this red line wants to go to where this dashed line is. It wants to be at a warmer temperature. So this cool air that wants to shoot and bridge this gap. And then the measure of in between these two lines is your cape.
Profile. Generally, the stronger your shear and the larger your cape is, you can get larger storms from that. One often overlooked aspect is generally your potential for strong downdrafts. And so from the skew T, you had really large cape and you also had relatively high LCLs. You had a lot of dry air beneath your cloud base. And
LCRs are where you condense your moisture. So higher LCLs, you have a higher cloud deck where clouds, your temperature profile and your dew point temperature converge. So your water becomes saturated and condenses. Boom.
A lot of dry air beneath your cloud base. And so what I'm noticing happens in these cases is any little perturbation or downdraft or cell interaction can actually exacerbate the motion of your storm.
So these supercells blowing up on the backside of the El Reno storm, what they're doing, given that really, really high instability, they're blowing up, and the storm's pretty slow forward motion allows the downdrafts from these storms to catch up and basically push upon tornadogenesis, push that tornado to the southeast instead of it following the storm's parent motion to the east-northeast.
So initially we had that really strong right turn, and I think part of that was owing to how strong those downdrafts were that day.
The work of Cameron and other bright minds in meteorology have identified these key environmental parameters as red flags for deviant tornadoes. With today's knowledge applied to a chaser's forecast on May 31st, 2013, this could have drastically influenced the decisions of positioning. The hindsight of El Reno in this recent research has been extremely beneficial for chasers in recent years, with events like Salado, Texas in 2020.
This was a funky one. This was April 2022 in Texas Hill Country. Here's I-35 right here, and this is literally 5 minutes from Gerald, Texas.
22, or Cole, Oklahoma in 2023. At the end of the day, a tornado's path is never a guarantee, and constant checks of its motion are required while chasing. At 6:14 local time, the Twistex crew avoided a collision with the widening tornado just east of the El Reno airport. They jogged back north a mile before continuing due east. At the juncture of Reuter Road and US 81, Carl's camera records the dialogue between him and Tim, debating to head north on US 81 or continue east en route. Their conversation reveals that they had lost their third bullet.
So, where I get that kind of information here, if you haven't, anyone that is interested in learning about Tim Samaras and the El Reno day from the TwistX perspective, given that a lot of the footage and stuff from that day from their perspective has only been seen by a limited set of eyes, this book goes into great detail into how that day unfolded, and obviously the life of Tim Samaras itself. The Man Who Caught the Storm, biography on Tim Samaras, written by Bradley Hargrove. I imagine a lot of you have read it, but for those that aren't aware, pick this up and get a better understanding of Tim Samaras and his life. So,
Number 3. Maintain situational awareness. Tim and Carl both agreed to continue east over the north option, but unbeknownst to them at this moment, the tornado's deviant motion was no longer purely east, but rather northeast. This means the path directly intersects Reuter Road. Situational awareness is the ability to perceive.
So this is something that, if we were kind of looking at that June 15th, 2024 case that I was kind of using earlier in the video of my northward positioning, you know, if you're in the notch, you want to have a good clear view, right? But if you have a rain-wrapped tornado or the RFD really is wet, then you're going to lose kind of that situational awareness in the notch. So,
acknowledging when situational chaser's key tool in making the right decision in an intense moment. The catch is, maintaining that situational awareness is not always a guarantee. So what gives? How can I keep myself safe if I lose that awareness?
oh shoot, my bad.
Real ability is setting ego aside and acknowledging when situational awareness is lost. That exact moment is when you execute your escape route. Putting ourselves in the shoes of TwistX, they had just seen a suction vortex to their south, 2 minutes ahead of the intersection before it was enveloped in rain. At the intersection, they acknowledged the wall of rain containing the tornado is to their south, currently crossing US 81, so that escape option is out of the question. North is in the opposite direction of that wall of rain. This likely contains large hail and would take them out of the chase, but it is not a tornado. Looking east, there is currently apparent clear air, but there is not enough information present to guarantee a safe eastern option, as there is no visual confirmation on the tornado. Leftward occlusions are a well-known behavior in 2013, so being left of the last observed tornado motion is dangerous. Going back west means traveling back on an unpaved road that has now been dumped on with loads of rain, leaving a probability of getting stuck or sliding off of the road. With all of the information present and acknowledging the lack of what needs to be known to continue.
These roads here just west of Oklahoma City actually aren't the worst in the world. They are gravel roads, so not obviously paved, not ideal, but definitely much better off than some of like the wet red clay that you'll run into. But nonetheless, don't want to gamble if you don't have to.
East, the best option is north. While not a perfect option, it is the only one that removes TwistX from the path of the tornado the most effectively. Even staying put is better than an uninformed eastern play, since
I think this is something that I probably should have emphasized more, the idea of staying put. I think, obviously, we all want to like spur action in the idea of like wanting to move and change position. It's probably, something inherent in human nature, but I think something that's underestimated is the ability to stay put in certain situations, and it's not something that's probably exercised enough of, especially in this type of situation.
That wall of rain containing the tornado is moving away from the intersection's location. Ultimately, Tim and Carl made the mutual decision at the intersection to continue east in order to keep the chase going. It's not until a mile past US 81 they realize the tornado is going to overtake them as that wall of rain encroached upon Reuter Road. Tim's last recorded words were stern. "Keep going. This is a very bad spot." They make a last-ditch effort to punch through it, but it's too late. Fighting directly against the tornadic winds, their sedan cannot overcome the 100-mile-per-hour headwind. A subvortex with 200-mile-per-hour winds reaches the apex of its cycloidal path on Reuter Road. Their Chevy Cobalt was no match for the subvortex. Shockwaves were sent through the chasing community when it was announced that the Samarises and Carl Young were killed in the El Reno tornado. More word spreads that a fourth chaser, Richard Henderson, was another casualty. On US 81, a fleeing Weather Channel tornado hunt crew would be tossed and rolled, leading to multiple injuries. May 31st, 2013 was a punch in the gut for the community. Storm chasers could be touched and could be killed.
So now that we got through El Reno,
Tornado-related chasing accidents would subside.
see, I didn't even I got a number of comments about this, and I feel bad after the fact. This is this shirt is a Spirited Man t-shirt, and I didn't even like put two and two together. I just needed like a B-roll shot of me storm chasing kind of thing, and I didn't even put two and two together to think that like, oh, the die trying might not be the best taste to put into a video after literally just talking about Twist X. That was like not completely unintentional, and yeah, sure enough, you definitely got a couple comments about that, so apologies.
For the next 5 years. However, the streak would end on May 28th, 2019, southwest of the city of Lawrence, Kansas. Most disturbingly, the impacted vehicles were of a storm chasing tour group. This guided chase tour.
So there's obviously a little bit of heated controversy around this incident. I know that one of the tour operators was not happy with how I approached this video, and they were not a fan of the conclusions that I came to. I kind of based this off what's the conclusions that Skip Talbot had came to in his safety video involving this incident, and I think am in the camp as what Skip is saying given the context clues and the information available versus the alternate claims. And I think the actual meteorological evidence supports what Skip's analysis yields.
Consisting of 4 passenger vans, was pursuing a high precipitation supercell that was actively warned for a tornado. Supercells are often broadly classified into categories based on their output of precipitation.
This is a beautiful story.
A high precipitation supercell is a nightmare for storm spotting, with a rain-filled updraft obscuring the tornado-producing region. Rain will march around the updraft, creating a region storm chasers refer to.
This is actually the same day that I shot that B-roll footage of the Twist X Memorial. Because I shot that on May 31st, 2022. This was in Arkansas City, Kansas, right along the Kansas-Oklahoma border.
As the bear's cage. Beyond the rain that makes up the bars of the cage is the bear, aka the tornado, which will bite with little to no warning if you cross the barrier of the cage. While the bear's cage itself shields the tornado from view, high precipitation supercells still exhibit structural details that'll give clues
New
to
Mexico,
a tornado's
my
position.
beloved.
As this tour ventured into the notch from the south, those details were just to their southwest, heading right for them. Bullet number 4. Keep visibility.
This is a pretty good looking eye for being done with colored pencils. I'm pretty proud of that one.
This bullet closely relates to several bullets, but it deserves its own emphasis. Being able to spot storm features that spell out danger is critical to chasing safely. Two important storm scale features include the RFD gust front and inflow tail. While
If you can point out these two features, you're pretty much set.
they can present in multiple different ways, being able to recognize their shapes and use them in conjunction will give you the information needed to identify the tornado-producing region. Failure to recognize these features, or putting yourself in a position to not easily see them, like chasing at night or in heavily wooded areas, greatly increases your likelihood of losing your
Me violating my own examples by living in the north. This is actually Minnesota. That clip of
will present like a horseshoe shape, while
clip of trees.
failure to recognize these features, or putting yourself in a position to not easily
Okay, so I'm gonna address this question. Why do almost all these have shelf cloud looking stuff? Yeah, because it's called the RFD gust front. They do have like a shelf cloud looking, like especially on this more grungy looking storm. Not every supercell is gonna be super pretty. So this is a pretty grungy look, but the RFD gust front is gonna have that kind of shelfy look to it. And then here's your inflow tail. And then this storm is just a massive. This is going outflow dominant at this point. This supercell here. This was in the. I can't remember if we were in Colorado or crossed back into Nebraska at this time. This looks like Nebraska given the telephone poles, but basically, this whole thing, like the updraft base, is buried in here now. This is a massive supercell, and then you have your forward flank up here. This is the rear flank, kind of curling in here. So you see where there's the separation there. So this is your rear flank downdraft and then wrapping back and in. So we're kind of south of the storm, and it's moving kind of southeast. So it's kind of moving towards this field. So we're not in the path of it.
recognize these features, or putting yourself in a position to not easily see them, like chasing at night or in heavily wooded areas, greatly increases your likelihood of losing your situational awareness on where the tornado-producing region is.
So
The RFD gust front will
Warning,
present
New York.
like a horseshoe shape, while the inflow tail will
Nice.
point to the upper end of the horseshoe. These two features are the two best at locating where the most likely tornado-producing region will be.
Oh, what's
For
up,
this
Jesse?
tour group, the storm features needed to make a safe escape decision were all present right up until entering the bear's cage. What kept them from being able to identify these features is unclear.
Yes, this was a shot that I used that was similar to what they saw. I didn't have any express permissions from I didn't have any contacts that had good angles of what I was looking for from that day, so I just kind of recreated it from one of my own old chases.
But they were present based on imagery from other chasers and tour participants leading up to the impact. A possible explanation for this could be a violation of the fifth bullet. Number 5. Avoid radar fixation. The ability to view radar data while storm
Very
chasing
important.
has revolutionized the craft. The data it can provide to a chaser is possibly the most powerful tool when it comes to decision making in the field, but it is a double-edged sword. Reliance on radar data can be the critical error that leads chasers into trouble. It can easily suck your attention away from what is happening outside of the vehicle.
Such a stupid little effect, but I thought it was so funny. I just did like a quick ellipse and then did like a radial blur.
As noted in bullets 3 and 4, knowing what
Connor's
is
in
happening
chat, too.
around you is critical
Nice.
for safety. Not only can a radar suck your attention away from where it needs to be, but it can easily be misinterpreted. Radar data
God, I
is
looked
fine
so
is a
young there.
double-edged
Not that
sword.
one.
Reliance on radar data can be the critical error that leads chasers into trouble. It can easily suck your attention away from what is happening outside of the vehicle. As noted in bullets 3 and 4, knowing what is happening around you is critical
The
for
flow
safety.
looking incredible there.
Not only
Then this is like baby Ethan and Connor. This was 2021. So I was 22. 21 when this was shot. 20. Yeah, I was 22. I don't know. I'm older now. I can see the weathering in my face of disappointment.
can a radar suck your attention away from where it needs to be, but it can easily be misinterpreted. Radar data is finite, with resolution and low-level beam height lost with distance. Additionally, it is always stale information, with a new scan coming in once every 5 minutes.
You know, it's funny. Radar I only really use if stuff's like really rain wrapped and I can't see anything. And at that point, I'm still operating at further proximity. But like when I'm, in underneath a storm, I'm not even looking at radar anymore. I'm using pretty much all eyes.
You're operating at close range to a storm. That information is no longer current, just seconds after that refresh. Back on May 28th, 2019, the velocity radar presentation of the tornado that would impact the tour group was extremely small, occupying only a few pixels.
I think this is like one of the best illustrations of radar fixation because we all love to get, we love looking at like reds and greens kind of coming together. But, the tornado is these 2 pixels, the Lone Star EF2, not this convergence signature. This is the next cycle gearing up, which will be the Lawrence EF4. But
to add to the confusion, a strong convergence velocity signature further north could have been interpreted as the warned region. Spotting those few velocity pixels on a phone or laptop screen in a moving vehicle on a bumpy Kansas back road is borderline impossible. The tour's intentions were spelled out in a public statement, citing that the main circulation was to their northwest. This prompted a U-turn to go south so that they could pick up the east-west running highway 2 miles away. They claimed that they were impacted by a satellite tornado on the southerly route, which was not the case. An over-reliance on radar would explain how the tour guides were led to believe that the broadly rotating convergence signature was the main threat. While this convergence signature would ultimately contribute to the eventual Lawrence EF4, the visual cues outside of the vehicle spelled out the true story. Nonetheless, other information was used by the tour operators over what was just outside their windshield. This steered the tour into a southerly escape route, putting them squarely into the crosshairs of the Lone Star EF2. 2 of the 4 vans were flipped from the road, resulting in several injuries. Fortunately, there were no fatalities from this incident.
I think
the
there was
chasing timeline continued forward,
some form of
the
neck
early
injury.
season of 2023 would prove to be some of the most consequential moments in the history of chasing safety.
Rolling, like the stuff that happened in Rolling Fork, I think is possibly, I think that's honestly some of the most reckless. And I've talked to Marcus Reynolds about this, the individual that I kind of talk about next here. But I think just the situation, granted, the Mississippi River Delta, great chase terrain, but just the parameter space being night, fast moving storms, very, very dangerous conditions to be chasing in.
Night of March 24th, 2023 would be one of devastation for the rural community of Rolling Fork, Mississippi. This EF4 tornado would claim the lives of 17 and injure 165. Among the devastation were 2 separate storm chasers that were impacted by the tornado. One of them was Marcus Reynolds. Marcus was on the north side of town on US 61 when the tornado would enter the southwest corner of town. Already at a disadvantage with a number of previous bullets in question, his next few actions would put him in a position that would nearly cost him his life. As the tornado continued northeast, Marcus would admit that he had misinterpreted the information that he was relying on for his safety.
And I looked at radar and realized it was going to go through Rolling Fork, and my maps on my phone had gotten skewed so that it wasn't showing north, and I thought the road that I was on was going due north to south, and not realizing that it was going southwest to northeast. So I realized that I was against the forward flank, and I thought the tornado would pass myself south safely.
Number 6. Minimize task saturation. Unlike the previous 2 cases, Marcus was chasing solo. While many chasers ride alone, it inherently increases the risk of becoming...
Why is my mirror... Oh, I know why. My mirror's all messed up there, relying on the side mirrors. But yeah, definitely something to talk about is task saturation. And I think we've seen that a couple instances of that in people that are doing live streams that are running solo.
Task saturated. A term most commonly used in aviation, it applies perfectly in the world of storm chasing. Defined as having too much to do without enough time, tools, or resources to
This
do it.
upcoming effect where I do the voices layered on top of each other, another idea that I had during a run. I swear I have my best ideas when I'm running.
Task saturation has been responsible for numerous aviation accidents where a problem would turn into a disaster as pilots tried to deal with all of the information and procedures to rectify the original issue, that they forget the top priority, flying the airplane. This deadly snowball effect can easily be applied in storm chasing. While solo chasing, the chaser is responsible for driving, navigating, watching the important storm features, looking at radar, using their camera, making storm reports, and so forth. This chaotic environment with so much stimulus can easily lead to missing details, misinterpreting information, or even neglecting the most important task at hand.
Driving.
This is only amplified when the tornado is on the ground and adrenaline is at a peak. In Marcus's case, he was focused on the radar and map on his phone. The nighttime environment likely led to an over-reliance on radar.
So here's Max getting blasted by the RFD. He's moving back north towards Rolling Fork after the tornado has gone through town, and he's just getting absolutely assaulted by the RFD of the storm.
Where he plotted the tornado moving north of Rolling Fork rather than through town.
Thought it was going to go a little bit north. I think the town is called Agia or something like that. I went north through Rolling Fork, and then, I started getting into the core a little bit and whatnot, and I was like, well, that's weird. I thought, and I looked at radar and realized it was going to go through Rolling Fork.
Additionally, when looking at maps, he thought he was oriented due north, leading him to believe that US 61 was a pure north-south road. These bad inputs could have been combated if task saturation was minimized. While not possible for everyone, another person in the car could have easily corrected the mistake if communicating properly. Even if you're chasing solo, a deep breath and focusing purely on the most important tasks at hand could save your life in this situation. Marcus would head south-southwest on US 61, where he would come face-to-face with the tornado. It would come in and out of
Yeah, so he had momentary glimpses of
split
it.
moments as power flashes revealed.
Like, that's a scary, scary shot that he had. Like, this is 10 seconds from impact, probably.
Its location.
Probably a terrifying 10 seconds.
Currently north of a northeast moving tornado, this would have been the perfect opportunity for Marcus to evaluate his 7th bullet. Number 7. Quality escape routes. It is no secret that escape routes are essential for safe storm chasing. However, not all escape routes are built the same.
You gotta do more of
Hence
the
the use
GoPro
of
on
the
the
word
side of the car.
quality.
Shots. Like those.
Using Marcus's posted snapshots leading up to impact, Marcus was left of the tornado's mean motion, which, as we know,
Yeah, I had to do a little bit of what's it called? Photogrammetry there to figure out exactly where he was positioned for each of those shots.
thanks to bullet number 2, is an extremely dangerous spot to be in, even if
You had to use the light poles in the field here to line up this, and then I was able to use the street sign and tree there to line up that pin marking.
the tornado is steady state.
So I guess you can
At
see, let me back up really quick. You can really see how even in this short, that's probably what, 200 yards maybe, if that, that in that stretch of time, how much the tornado has moved up and gained position on him. So every second in this situation is critical into impacting or every second matters when you're in this type of proximity with a storm moving this fast.
Motion, which as we know, thanks to bullet number 2, is an extremely dangerous spot to be in even if the tornado is steady state. At Marcus's first snapshot location where the tornado is illuminated, it is clear that the southern option is not the quality escape route. This route crosses the tornado's path. The safest option at this point is to turn around and head north-northeast on US 61 into the core of the storm. While not perfect if there is a leftward occlusion, it is the fastest, most reliable road to get out of harm's way. What about this left turn to head west on Rosenwald Avenue? This westward turn is not advised, as it does not provide the fastest and highest quality method of escape. While it is a paved road, this is a residential street with homes that in a worst case event will become shrapnel grenades. A leftward turn of that tornado would mean a death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, you could shoot left in this situation. Honestly, it would have been nice. I mean, I guess with the lack of inputs and he's juggling so much in his head at that moment, it's so tough to say what is going through his mind at that moment. But it's like, dude, this is clear. Like, you have to just turn around and book it north, I think, at this point. And once again, standing still for like maybe 2 seconds, you would be able to realize that if you're going to continue south, you're just going to stumble into the thing. Oh, thank you for the super chat, St. Louis Weather Club. It's much appreciated. Tyler, sup, dude? I was able to watch Chris's footage, and he was a victim of a similar mistake. He was following Google Maps and GPS to turn down a dead-end road. Both of them were relying completely on GPS at the moment. Yeah, so... yeah.
As 2x4s and household objects are propelled at your vehicle at nearly 200 miles per hour. A westward escape is a last resort option, assuming US 61 was not available. At Marcus's second snapshot location, now further south and much closer to the tornado, he is next to a small gravel road that goes west. In this situation, given how dangerously close he is now, a quick turn west might be faster than a U-turn. However, gravel roads limit your speed and can easily vary in condition, potentially rendering you stuck. Not only that,
yeah, picking
but in
escape
this
routes
case,
is so
this
important.
gravel road is a dead end.
Just being anywhere in a town is just, while the tornado's on the ground, is not a good idea. It's just not good. Connor and I had an instance this year. What was the name of that town? It was in Texas. Texas Hill Country. I gotta find it now because my brain is gonna be upset if I don't figure it out. Texas Hill Country. Where were we? It wasn't quite Junction. It was London, I think. Yes, we were coming around this curve. Yeah, we had a massive supercell bearing down on us. Oh, and La Mesa too. You're right, Connor. Duh. I was thinking of the other instance when we were driving and we had debris flying at us. Road debris flying at us in London. But yeah, so there was that instance there. But yeah, we were coming through La Mesa with a tornado forming. So the first tornado was like here, and we're like coming through town. A new tornado's forming like down here on a southward east moving storm. So it's literally like forming over top of us while we're on this main road through the town of La Mesa. But yeah, a couple of instances where we were, pretty, we were in town, and it just really limits visibility, limits your maneuverability. It's just not a good situation. So anyway, I'll continue here.
Not all side roads are labeled or mapped adequately enough to bet your life on. US 61 northbound is still the correct option. Just south of that photo location are easterly gravel options towards retention ponds. These east options are completely out of the question as they still cross the tornado's path.
So this was one of the mobile home parks that got hit. Numerous fatalities occurred at this location, this mobile home park, and it's similar situation. We were talking about it in the Beauregard video that I just released. In Lee County, where mobile homes are obviously not ideal structures, but imagine being a chaser in that situation where you shoot down this gravel road just to try to escape, and then that you're getting full houses essentially being thrown at you, giant trailer frames basically, and that your vehicle is not going to survive that type of debris impacts. So
multiple fatalities would occur at the mobile home park.
I forgot I mentioned that. It's been a while since I've watched this video
Marcus
back.
would drive his vehicle into a ditch between US 61 and the gravel access road to his west as the tornadic circulation overtook him. His vehicle
Such a
would be
crazy
lofted
situation.
into a baseball field,
Can't imagine.
miraculously landing on its wheels. He would survive the Rolling Fork tornado with only minor injuries.
So I think he drove his car out
Gravity
after,
of his luck becomes apparent after the damage survey, when every structure...
because that picture that he took was on this road. I was able to do some geolocating after the fact, so he must have driven it back out of the field or something.
around the resting
Just
place
driven
of
it
his
on the rim.
vehicle would earn an EF4 rating. It would not be long after Rolling Fork when another tornado would impact chasers.
To Lewistown.
April 4th, 2023,
Lewistown, whatever it's called.
the town of Lewistown would be etched into the minds of several chasers, including Chris Risky.
My boy.
Chris was chasing this day with a vengeance. Having struck out days earlier on a high-risk setup, Chris was going to get a tornado. Bullet number 8. Mindful of mindset.
Possibly one of the most underrated bullets that I think got out of this, I think, is the mindful of mindset, because we can get so aggressive with our chasing, so, involved with how much we want to have success, right? And we can push limits when we're trying to succeed. It's very easy to fall into that mindset. I've fallen into it, that's for sure. Everyone's guilty of it.
Ask any storm chaser about the day that got away. Even the most legendary of storm chasers
I don't know
have
why
missed
I
out
used
on
my
days due to
face for
forecasting mistakes,
Legendary
chase
chasers.
execution errors, or downright bad luck. Expectations can be dangerous, especially on high-end days. It is easy to slip into a mindset of hunger or need to succeed, especially in the modern day and age of social media, where success is not only curated, but also rewarded with engagement and even monetary incentives. This leaves those that have struck out on a chase feeling the need for redemption. And while redemption is something a chaser wants, it can be an extremely dangerous mindset that forces you to push limits that should not be crossed.
It's very true.
Chris admits to this being the case on that day.
I was in a really, really bad mindset. I was way too aggressive. I felt like, I have to see this tornado and get as close as possible. It made me make really bad decisions. A few days prior, there was a large tornado outbreak, the double high risk on March 31st, and I didn't see anything. I totally busted on that day. And when I went online and I saw what all the other storm chasers got, specifically the tornadoes around Kyoto, it weighed on me so heavily, because here I am trying to, do storm chasing professionally, and I can't even see a single tornado on a super outbreak day. It was a huge blow to my confidence. It made me think like, I don't know how to storm chase, and it put me in that mindset that eventually made me make horrible decisions. So I think it's important to not chase with a mentality of scarcity, but rather chase with this idea of abundance. There's going to be other chances, and if this one chase doesn't work out, then so be it.
Wise
After
words
core
from Chris
punching a
himself.
massive supercell, He'd descend into the notch where the Lewistown tornado was just beginning to take shape. Chris is obviously in a precarious situation in the notch. Bullet number 1 needs to be exercised here, and that caution can easily be applied to bullet 9. Number 9. The tornado is larger than it appears. It has been established that the bear's cage is an extremely dangerous place to be when it comes to storm chasing. The bear's cage in Chris's video is textbook. This entire region should be treated with danger. We can still easily see the tornado here, right? It's condensing and looks relatively small. But as Chris is about to find out, the condensation funnel does not always define the outer limits of a tornado's wind field. At this moment, while the tornado appears to be relatively thin, the actual tornadic wind field at this point is nearly a half mile wide.
Run this.
This deceptively wider tornadic field can give the illusion of having more time than you actually have. This is why a lot of chasers will treat the bear's cage as the entire tornado, because in cases like El Reno, it is. Even if the tornado is not the full width of the bear's cage, there are still plenty of threats that are in or around the tornado that can still land you in trouble. The tornadic rear inflow jet, or aptly named ghost train, can easily blow out windows of a vehicle. Not to mention that close proximities to tornadoes can cause you to be showered with debris. Ultimately, the hazards of a tornado will go well beyond the limits of the visual condensation funnel, requiring chasers to use bullet number 9 to maintain their safety. Chris would attempt to stay in front of the tornado, executing a dangerous choice of escape route. Once reaching the intersection with Illinois 100, he realized the peril that he was in. With traffic on the main road, he attempted to go back the way he came. Unfortunately,
such a tough situation.
It was too late. For him and another chaser on that main road, they would fall victim to the final bullet.
And that tornado was moving
Number
so
10.
fast.
Evade debris entrapment. This can be a difficult bullet to adhere to, as it can be well outside of your control, but debris entrapment is a very real concern. Out in the field, there are certain objects that line roadways that need to be respected when in close proximity with severe weather. As Chris made his escape and doubled back in an attempt to escape to the west, 2 empty grain bins were no match for the outer edge of the tornado.
It's like, what do you...
They would be lofted, one of which impacting his vehicle. This would be the final blow for Chris as it immobilized his vehicle, and he would be impacted by the tornado. Empty grain bins are just one roadside hazard in high winds. Another, more lethal hazard to chasers are power lines.
Yeah, power lines.
Power poles can be knocked down even by RFD winds and can box you into a corner with live lines pumping thousands of volts into the ground. Downed power lines kill 10 times more people per year in the States than tornadoes. While chasers cannot control what lines the road...
So that's a wild stat that, might make you not sleep at night. The power lines, way more lethal in the United States than tornadoes.
They chase. The awareness of what is around you when you're near dangerous elements of a storm could be a strong influence in position.
Of course, I managed to find footage of me literally standing under power lines next to a storm. Classic. My B-roll library of me chasing is actually pretty extensive and multiple terabytes deep at this point.
Positioning or earlier escapes. That concludes the 10 bullets of chaser safety.
Yay.
While there is more that goes into staying safe out in the field, keeping the 10 bullets in mind while out next to a supercell will influence better decision making that will keep you safe and allow you to chase another day. So as always, stay safe out there when it comes to severe weather.
So yes. Woo. So it was fun. I hope that was a fun video. And still one of my favorite videos I've made. It's almost at 1 million views, which is really crazy to think about. It's almost at as many views as the original 10 Bullets video by Tom Sachs, which is crazy. The original inspiration for this video. I'm gonna stick around for a couple minutes. And I'll do a little bit of maybe a little bit of Q&A on the 10 bullets or something like that, and we'll go from there. But I gotta pop off soon. I gotta go to a dinner. I gotta I'm going to the Italian festival. I'm getting some food, but I might get a storm here in a second, so yeah. I see stuff about hard drives. I have a network attached storage device, so a NAS, for external storage, and kind of my own little data server that has, RAID set up and all that to manage all my footage. So I have data redundancy. And then I have the 2 copies of, the mirroring drives, and then I have all the other stuff put onto external hard drives that are locked in my safe. So I have multiple redundant. So I have 3 sources, or 3 copies of every single file. So. Oh, is the street noise coming through? I got woken up last night at 4 a.m. because of the fire alarm here. That was fun. Fortunately, no fire, but still rather scary in the moment. Thought I was going to have to go down the fire escape and thought my apartment was going to burn to the ground, which would have been sick, but fire department gave the all clear, and I was able to get back to sleep, thankfully. Are you excited for hockey season? From Colin. Yes, I am. It's been a long off season, and I'm excited for hockey to be back. NFL tonight, which will be sweet. I'll probably head over to my buddy's place after eating dinner for some Thursday night football. I'm not the biggest football fan, but it'd be nice to hang out with the boys. We need more storm structure identification stuff. It can be tough when things don't look obvious. Yeah, and I think a lot of that just comes with experience. And yeah, a lot of that is just something you're going to have to acquire with time. And that's why for people first time going with someone that you trust and has done it in some capacity is definitely beneficial. What's the ideal chase vehicle? One that you can afford and one that's reliable. So, Toyota, Honda, Subaru. The top 3 Kelley Blue Book car manufacturers in terms of reliability. I wouldn't use anything that's made by something like Stellantis or GM or Ford. That might be controversial to some, but reliability is key, and you cannot deny that the track record of Toyota, Honda, and even Subaru as of late is beyond definitely the best in those categories. I drive a Subaru Crosstrek myself. It has 130,000 miles on it, and I've only had to do basic maintenance to it. So that's what I do. June 1st. What do you think about the 2025 hurricane season so far? Pretty quiet. There's an invest out in the Atlantic right now. That's about it in terms of the hurricane season. Nothing too crazy. How are you doing, Ethan? After you've been I've been all right. Yeah, it's been a year of now doing this full time, which has been fun. But I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do with June 1st, big picture and like long term. And I don't know if it's, all going to be YouTube stuff or if it's going to be something else, but I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about where I want to take this thing and what I need to do in terms of my, personal life along with my career, because It's a difficult balance when you're doing everything, when you're doing your own like small business, I guess, for lack of a better term. So, yeah. Find a Honda from 2000 through 2015. Once their Earth Dream engines came out, they all started having head gasket issues. So it's almost like the inverse of Subaru, where the EJ, was it the EJ25 or whatever that had the head gasket issues. Yeah. I really liked your hail cannon vid. You should do more building and making stuff like that. I really want to do more building stuff. That's the thing I've been thinking a lot about, getting back kind of the engineering roots of the channel. But I'm just, with the apartment, it's not something I have in my current capacity, and I think I would have to go to more of a back to a part-time basis in order to support, kind of doing those types of projects. And I want to do more building stuff, which want versus need at this point. Like I said, I'm still thinking big, and there's some other bigger projects that I'm working on too on the side that I've been trying to juggle as well. There's so much going on right now that something that I want to start taking the channel in a more serious direction with, bigger projects. So you'll see more about that eventually. Chasing a 2012, yeah, to the 2012, geez. Honda Cross Tour, also the daily. Yeah, my cross track's my daily, but I don't have to drive a lot on the day-to-day, fortunately, given that I'm in Hoboken in greater New York. Yeah. All right, good stuff, guys. I think I'm gonna just wrap it up here. Like I said, I gotta go try to go get some food from this festival before the rain sets in. I'm looking out a window that I can't look out of right now, but I know let's take a look at radar. Oh, I might be boned. No fun. So, anywho. Any last minute questions that we can get in? Oh, in your opinion, what is the most deadliest tornado ever? How's that opinion? Isn't that just like concrete fact? Wouldn't it be one of the Bangladesh ones? I think I saw something earlier about deadliest hurricane too, and I'm pretty sure that's also, what would that be? What's that storm in the 70s that hit Bangladesh? Starts with a B. I was literally looking at it earlier today. But yeah, keep making more tornado videos. Yeah, I want to do other stuff too. I tried doing something with that weather, kind of busting weather modification myths. But that video flopped for the amount of effort that I put into it, and that was not ideal. So, but anywho, thanks guys for watching, and I'll do some more streaming soon. See ya.